Hi everyone, we are back, and I'm here with our very special guest, Jack Daly. Give me a second to turn my ring light on. Back with our guest, Jack, who played Okami with us, who's from the Mythic Existence Podcast, among other ventures that he does online with involving folklore and mythology and lots of other traditions, as it were. But we're gonna ask him some questions about his a ton of links tonight, Daisy. I see you just posting everything.
I posted so many links to your shit, Jack. I posted
so
links to the podcast, to where you can find Mythic Existence on Twitter and Instagram, as well as your personal Twitter / Instagram stuff, and also the YouTube channel. So people,
drop some follows.
Yeah, well, keep doing it again too. I just wanted to set the people up right, you know.
Absolutely. Jack, you ready to get into this interview?
I'm ready.
We had fun. We had fun making these.
We had fun putting this together. You know,
it's so curious to see.
Okay,
what kind of questions would come up for me.
We should get into thanking
Daisy as head sleuth this week. Do you want to thank the sleuths?
Yes. Every week on the show, we ask questions of guests, and it's not always Dom and I who come up with the questions, although we had some influence this week. But usually it is a team of sleuths, and they are fantastic researchers. And Dom always says, and I will echo, that they are intrepid and wonderful and come up with great questions. So if you hear a question that you like or that Jack likes and it's very obvious, don't thank us, thank the sleuths. That's also us a little bit this week, but usually the sleuth.
Well, Daisy was like head sleuth this week, but
yeah. But usually I'm not involved.
A lot of she has more knowledge than most about me.
Yeah, Daisy's got the dirt on you, buddy.
I had to be on. I maybe crowdsource some questions. Anyway, let's get into it.
Let's get into that. All right. So Jack, our first question. We always like to start off these interviews with a broad concept that we think, like a broad folklore 101 question, like intro to folklore question that we think the guest can answer perfectly. Therefore, with you on the show this week, I'd like to start off this interview by asking, how are symbols and patterns important for studying folklore?
That's a good question. Symbols and patterns, I mean, they're so important to studying and understanding the culture and what they believe in the first place. I can think about Newgrange burial mounds in Ireland. They have the triple spiral engraved in them from 8,000 years ago, thousands of years ago, and that lets you know the belief about the existence of their importance of the Trinity of the mind, body, and spirit, basically. And so I would say that learning the symbols of a culture, it lets you know what is really important to them. I actually recently, I created a manifestation journal, is what I called it. It's a magic manifestation journal, is what I called it.
I may or may not have a link to that. that I'm gonna drop right now.
You got so many links tonight,
unless you tell me, unless you tell me you don't want it. But
no, go for it. It's not.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how I can actually, make it a thing, basically. But it's 66 days of journal entries that I've written a prompt for, and they're supposed to just get you thinking about what is important to you, what do you want to do with your life. Questions that can either be really beneficial or kind of stressful, but on each page I have symbols that go along with the question, and most of them are drawn from mythology and folklore and symbols. It's just such a rich language that you have to kind of learn how to decipher.
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah.
Trying to think of it's been a few months since I've written it, but
to use a folklore word, to use a mythology word, what's a good prototypical form of a symbol you would use in that?
Yeah.
I mean, I have a circumpunct for sure in there. I forget like which days I have them associated with, but I've got the circumpunct, I've got the triquetra. I have a picture of the shaman from Neolithic cave art on there, and I forget why that is. Astrological symbols.
I can only imagine what either like a Twitch channel or Discord server would have for emotes. That would be freaking awesome to have all of those different symbols as like little emojis that you get like spam. That'd be awesome.
Agreed.
And there was no lack for symbols. Like it was fun writing that because I think, what can I associate with this kind of prompt? And it'd be like, oh, obviously, I need to have triple spiral here or whatever it might be. So,
well, can I ask a more specific question that deals with some of your work and some of your writing in particular?
Sure.
What? And this might be a good time to ask this question, but what is what you call the reconciliation of opposites?
Oh, that's a good question. So, that's something that I wrote a little bit about in my thesis research, actually. And it's a common theme that you see in folklore and mythology and in just like spiritual writings in general. And to me, the reconciliation of opposites is when you come to an understanding that things that are opposites are actually two sides of the same coin. And the most important religiously and like mythologically is heaven and earth, basically.
Sure.
And so the reconciliation of opposites is, night and day, dark and light, on and off. They exist on a spectrum as opposed to existing as a duality, basically.
Yeah.
So that's basically how I would define it. Recently, I was researching voodoo for an episode of John Solo YouTube page that I'm working for, and voodoo, they have a pole that is at the center of their religious services, and it's meant to represent the continuity between the earthly plane and the spiritual plane, and how there's a connection between them, basically. So
that's cool. It makes me think about like sometimes it's okay, the way that you think about like the reconciliation of the opposites is cool, because I feel like a lot of people who hear about the duality of these symbols think that they are two things that you exist on one end or the other of, but the way you're describing it is like it's not that way at all, and in fact they're one thing that shows up in all of these different like spectral ways. Is that what you are saying? Am I interpreting your interpretation correctly?
You are, yeah.
Okay.
So, and some of those symbols are the Caduceus is one. Yin and Yang symbols they often are infused with the same meaning, basically, which is that these two opposite things are actually part of the same larger, existence.
So I think yin and yang is a very good example. I think a lot of people know what that is and understand how, like, it's two opposites that are actually part of one whole. Can you explain the Caduceus if people don't know?
Sure. Yeah. So the Caduceus is the staff of Hermes, and it's basically it's a rod that has two serpents that are rising and intertwining throughout it, and then there's often wings that are on it, and so the wings, that kind of represents the spiritual or like the heavenly aspect of it.
Is that like the thing that's like the symbol you see on like medical stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And so and actually that was as far as my understanding is, that was a mistake by the medical field.
Yeah, it's a fun story. It's a fun story.
Wait, I don't know this. Wait, tell me, Jack. I don't know this.
my understanding is that the rod of Asclepius should have been used as opposed to the staff of Hermes. Asclepius was a healer, and there's one snake on the rod of Asclepius, but there's two rods, and a staff of Hermes. And there's a fascinating book. I can't recommend this book enough. It's called The Cosmic Serpent by Jeremy Narby. He's an anthropologist.
I feel like I have this on my shelf. I might have this on my shelf.
You need to read it. Basically, what he did is he went to South America and hung out with the ayahuasqueros, Peruvian shamans, and drank ayahuasca with them. And they told him, we get our knowledge from these serpents. And he took it and he saw the serpents. And if you look at like Peruvian ayahuasca art, you'll see this intertwining serpent that is very similar to the Caduceus. But Narby's thesis is that that's actually the structure of DNA, and that so double helix of DNA is where that comes from, and there's some kind of connection there. And the Ouroboros is another symbol that I talk about in my thesis that I liken to the Caduceus, and that's a serpent or a dragon eating its own tail. And there's some fascinating medical history behind that as well, because man who discovered I believe it's called the benzene ring is an important thing in chemistry. He had a dream about Ouroboros and then ended up having that as his breakthrough to understanding this breakthrough in the field of chemistry. So anyway,
hopefully to add it rather than detract from the really cool thing that you just said, the chat is going off about worm sticks and worms. The chat is like worm stick and worm eat. So if you're a worm fan, I guess you fit in the club of a serpentine mythos.
Can I try to connect it all, Daisy?
Yes.
So I think what his name's Narby, right? I feel like I've come across
Jeremy Narby is.
I feel like what Jeremy Narby is getting at is that if they don't like specifically know what DNA looks like if Peruvian shamans have not actually like don't have a tradition that passes down what like DNA looks like in a human body, at least there is like something about like that spiral shape that is universal in a sort of unconscious way. Yada yada yada. We're all made of worm stick. Embrace worm stick. But that leads me to my next. Embrace the worm stick. That leads me to my next question for Jack, though, which is what do you see as the relationship between the field of folklore and like the unconscious mind?
No, I mean, theories about the unconscious they're tentative. Like that's I did research about Carl Jung, was part of my thesis as well. And there's a lot of people in this field of folklore that don't like Carl Jung, and it's understandable why they don't. And I don't want to say that folk tales and mythologies and symbols all come from the unconscious, because I think that there's multiple different ways that they come up through. But it's interesting that there's so many similarities between vastly different cultures and the stories they tell. Sometimes, as we were talking about with geomythology and the Thunderbird and the stories of the orphan tsunamis, there's a reason why two vastly different cultures have the same belief, because they're connected by something that actually occurred. But the unconscious is something that's always fascinated me, because I'm not one of those people that is firmly like the unconscious is real and it's the most important thing that you can discover or know about. But there's a layer to existence that I think is just beyond the grasp of the normal mind, but is kind of always there. So things like, as far as like Jungian psychology is concerned, things like synchronicities is something that's really fascinating to me, because it's something that I've experienced time and again in my own life. So from an experiential standpoint, I think that there's something there.
Sure.
Jack, I relate to you too. I think one time, Dom, this was like a bajillion years ago. I don't know if you remember this, but one time I said to Dom that part of the reason I like folklore is that it helps you come up with, like, it makes the like regular stuff that we do all the time feel really important because it's connected to this like cosmic world. But I think, Dom, you felt the opposite way about it, in that it's just regular stuff that we do.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't make it more or less important.
I don't remember saying that, but that is totally what I was thinking as you described it just now. So it's probably what I was thinking years ago when you told me that.
Yeah, no, probably. Yeah, it was part of that like Ice and Fire Con or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I understand, Jack, your interest in this. Like, there's something about being a person and like being connected to other people that feels fundamental to human existence, but I have no idea how to validate that intuitive claim. Like, there's no validation for it.
I love to intellectualize, but I also love to not intellectualize.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
yeah.
And you know, folklore needs intellectualizing.
Yeah,
but also
sometimes, yeah.
Like, that's the whole kind of concept behind why I call Mythic Existence podcast Mythic Existence, is because it's a way of life and experiencing the world that it actually comes from a discussion that I had with my barber one time, and he was kind of like that too, and he's like, you know, I really like my, you know, mythical way of life. And I was like, that's kind of how it is. Like,
yeah,
it's a mythic existence. It's trying to infuse folding your laundry or cooking, you know, bread with sort of quality that is not quite describable, like almost like an ineffable beyond.
Yeah.
And that's purely just like abstract philosophy, but like
yeah, I feel it. I want to take a moment to thank Death Forest and T Papa's 56 and everybody who's cheering and giving us bits and going off because of how much they love your answers, Jack.
Thank you so much.
People are in big support of worms and also your approach to folklore.
I try and be, you know, with my research, I try and be as, you know, scholarly as I possibly can, you know, just in the way that I live my life, just in general.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I just think about things. It's just what works for me. It's what makes my life more meaningful, basically. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so in love with folklore and mythology, is that it makes my life more enjoyable, basically, when it comes down to it. So,
well, let me ask you this then. And we've had people who on the show who call themselves applied folklore, but that's normally like a term used for a public folklorist. What I think is really interesting about like the work you do is that you're kind of like sort of an applied you're doing like applied academia in a way. So can you talk a little bit, because you were talking about Mythic Existence and also the YouTube channel you do research for. Can you talk about what your research process is like for the folklore on these YouTube and podcast projects?
Absolutely. So for my own podcast, for my own YouTube, I found that people actually really enjoy the like more niche topics that are very academic. I did an episode about hauntology.
Oh, I love that.
we do love a good hauntology.
We do love hauntology on this channel.
And I mean, anybody who's dug into that or Derrida just in general just knows that that's a complex topic that somebody needs to understand in the first place to be able to like articulate it to other people. So that's kind of what I try and focus on, is coming up with topics like that don't quite have the exposure to the layperson. The layperson doesn't know hauntology. A lot of academics don't even know hauntology. So that's kind of I try and kind of bridge the gap between the popular and the academic, and I've found that people really are interested in academic theory, but they don't really know how to approach it in the first place. Another one of my most popular episodes is a monster theory episode that I did. So I've found that sometimes people just need somebody who's had the exposure on the academic side to articulate topics or even know what the topics are in the first place. So that's how I go about that. As far as for the YouTube channel that I'm a researcher for, I'm given the topics I'm going to research. A lot of times I actually come up with them though. Just to give you an example, like I was saying, right now I'm researching the origins of Jack Frost, and that's something that like weirdly you can't find the information. There's no videos. The Wikipedia page is completely wrong. There's like
so interesting.
And so, I start putting the pieces together and it's like, okay, there's these ice giants, Jokul and Frosty in Norse mythology. And it's like, well, that's kind of similar, but that's not it. And then it's led me to Russian fairy tales about this character named Morozko, who is also called Father Frost or King Frost. And sometimes when I'm doing my research, it takes a couple of days to piece everything together and learn what I don't know in the first place, which that's the most enjoyable part about doing research for me is, starting with that original puzzle piece and figuring out where the gaps in the knowledge are and going from there. So.
Yeah,
that's cool.
No, that's it. I really like the way you're talking about it, because we talk about like, I don't know, like lay people or like the average person, but like you're saying, like in your perfect world, they're just people who don't have a guide to like walk them through this stuff, because it's not necessarily like more complicated than most people can handle. It's just you need a teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, and like honestly, YouTube has been such a really great teacher for me. So
Sure.
I totally get why podcasts would be such a good medium to just say like, "Hey, well, you've been wondering about this. You're not alone.
Right.
Here's all the stuff I found."
This goes back to Okami, but is hauntology the other pun I enjoy?
Yes. Hauntology is a pun on ontology.
Ontology. Yeah, I don't mind that one.
In French, the words are pronounced the same way, and so
yeah,
hauntology,
ontology, and ontology.
Right. So,
someday you and I have to get together and talk about ontology, because, damn, I have been reading about it for class.
What have you been reading for it?
I've been reading about object-oriented ontology, which is like the... Oh my gosh. Okay, so if ontology is the idea that certain things are beings, or how you come to understand what it means to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think, right? Then object-oriented ontology would say, instead of there being us who are subjects, who have existence and are beings in the world, we are all objects, and subjectivity doesn't matter anymore. We're all objects, and we all have different perspectives in the world, and there is no us and other. We are all other.
Mm.
It is as complicated. That is as simple as I can make it, and yes, it is that.
That's a good distillation, Daisy.
Kind of ties in actually to the reconciliation of opposites, because in ontology there's always the and I forget the terms that Derrida uses, but it's the favored term and the repressed term, basically. And so subject is always favored above the object in the ontological structure. So I have more to say about that. It gets complicated, but
Gets complicated. DM us or send us a message or ask a follow-up if you want us to be more specific.
This is exactly the kind of stuff I love, though. This is the kind of stuff that made me want to go to get a master's in myth, Yeah.
Right.
And kind of the way Daisy's talking about it, it doesn't necessarily go away if you become like a public folklorist or anything. You just internalize it differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daisy, what do you think? Should I ask one more serious question and then move on to fun questions?
I think that sounds good based on time.
Okay. I guess if I had to ask you one more serious question, Jack, how do you define alchemy, and how does that show up in your work as a folklorist?
So, alchemy for me, I oftentimes I prefer what I call the psycho-spiritual approach to alchemy.
Okay.
Also could be called the Jungian approach to alchemy. Jung was one of the great scholars of alchemy from the 20th century. Most people think about alchemy as being the mundane transmutation from lead into gold, or the prime matter into the philosopher's stone is said to be the goal of alchemy. But from a Jungian approach or a psychological approach, alchemy becomes kind of a spiritual path from turning the unenlightened lead of the normal mind into the gold of an enlightened mind.
Oh, okay.
So connections between alchemy and folklore are it sometimes can be hard to make the connection between the two of them. I like researching alchemists as a folk group and looking at their folk beliefs in particular. And once you start reading the texts of the alchemists from the greatest periods are basically the 1st to the 3rd century AD, and then in the late Middle Ages, dating like the 11th, 12th centuries, when you read them, you just realize that there's something deeper going on. They're talking about something that is not readily understood, and so that's what fascinated me researching alchemy, which was something that I got into when I was in college, because I was a history major and I was studying basically the history of magic, and alchemical philosophy was something that really just struck out to me. And there's one of the main alchemical texts is called the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, which ties into I am interested in the Caduceus and Hermes, but the first phrase is that which is above is as that which is below, and so that's the goal of the alchemists, is to reconcile that above below duality.
That makes so much. Wow, how on this absolutely mythical interview have you made it full circle?
Because he wasn't going to end, Daisy. That's a false dichotomy. He was resolving beginning and end are not. Yeah, they're not a binary opposition.
How have we put into practice the exact thing that you have been talking? Wow, amazing.
We're learning so much.
Thank you.
Jack, can I give you some fun questions?
some goofy fun.
Let's get into fun.
Let's get into some fun
those
questions.
questions were fun for me.
Yes.
but- Okay.
But there are also serious stuff that you've that you write and study. Let's get into some general stuff. It looks like the Braves are gonna win the World Series tonight.
Very unfortunate.
I'm not really a fan of either of those teams playing tonight, but do you have like a favorite folk belief about the World Series?
Yes, I do. So baseball is something that's very important to me. I don't know who's done the research to figure that out, but I was the captain of my high school baseball team. I went to Rockies games all growing up as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is something that's very important to me, and I've been trying to figure out recently how I can become a sports folklorist, which I see that you have the channel on the Discord, and I've looked into it. But
Oh, yeah.
that's an area that I want to do
Post
more
some
research on.
stuff. Post some stuff or some ideas or questions you have in there. We would love that.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna go full circle again. Hopefully, I can blow your minds as much as I seemingly did just a little bit.
Let's
ago.
go.
But,
Let's go.
Are you familiar with Black Sox
Yes.
scandal?
Daisy, do you know the Black Sox?
I know that there's a Black Sox song. That's a Girl Scout song. Got Black Sox.
Probably unrelated.
I think
Okay.
unrelated.
I did wonder if this was going to be an extra mind-blowing moment. Okay, no, I
So-
do not know.
Black
Tell me.
Sox, as featured in the documentary the documentaries Ken Burns Baseball and Field of Dreams, the other great baseball documentary.
And 8 Men Out, which is a book that was written
Oh,
about
sure.
it, also turned into a great movie. And Field of Dreams has Ray Liotta as Shoeless Joe
That's
Jackson.
Shoeless Joe.
I'm gonna
Ken's
get there,
burn.
but
The chat says
Uh,
Ken's burn.
it was in I believe the 1919
1919, yeah.
World Series. The Black Sox are a great team that featured their name Shoeless Joe Jackson, who famously didn't wear shoes when he played. And they had a feud with their owner, Charles Comiskey, and decided to fix the World Series with went into hoots with some gamblers, basically. And they ended up getting caught and banned for life, and they were
my
called
God.
the 8 Men Out because there was 8 of them that went in on
Right.
this conspiracy.
God.
And so in the movie 8 Men Out, I'm going to tie this into hauntology. as
Let's
well,
go.
because where in hauntology, you're haunted by our created pasts and our imagined futures. And
Okay.
so when you study conspiracies of sports, you're oftentimes seeing the same actors from 8 Men Out being recast into new roles. There's a main player that is upset with the stingy owner, and they're going in with gamblers and they're conspiring to fix the game. And so the actual scandal of the Black Sox is something that is constantly hanging over sports and baseball in particular. And in Field of Dreams, Shoeless Joe Jackson literally comes back as a ghost to play at the Field of Dreams. So his spectral presence is something that is constantly hanging over baseball and creating us to imagine these futures of conspiracy, basically. So,
And you don't have to tell me twice about the specter of 1919 forever hanging over baseball, because I am a Reds fan and just put Pete in the Hall of Fame.
well, you have to put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, and I've been working on actually an article that's all my unique research and ideas,
Uh-huh.
but I've got those. I've been
Hey.
writing that article. It's not finished yet, but
I will say our sleuth who came up with the baseball question was like, this guy loves baseball. You don't write about it in 4 different mediums and not like baseball.
Not love baseball.
person must have gone to my blog.
Yeah, I think so. It's awesome.
Oh man.
Thank you, sleuths.
Also, if you Jack or anyone watching this, if you want more baseball, make sure you watch our interview we did back in May with Megan Hillier Geisler, who is a lifelong Cubs fan, and we had her rank the best attempts at breaking the curse of the GOAT.
That was a great one.
That was such a fun one.
Bill Buckner, what was Bill Buckner?
1987.
87. 2004 was the year that they broke it. 2003 was another good run for it, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the Red Sox played Reds in the World Series one time in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but those are the top three that come to mind 76. For me.
Sure. Yeah, that's the Red Sox Reds is that great sports call. It's up. The ball is up if it stays fair. If it stays fair, home run. Yeah, but
Carlton Fisk.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also chat suggests if you haven't met Dr. John Price yet.
I actually have never met him before.
Oh, you gotta meet John Price.
We'll hook you up because he also likes sports lore, and he does a bunch of sports lore stuff. So we'll hook you up. We'll hook you up.
Yeah, sports lore is an area that I need to get more into because I'm obsessed with sports and I know way too. I mean, I'm
too much.
Yeah. So
is my dissertation sports lore, Daisy?
I'm gonna turn this back on Jack. Jack, do you think that food eating contests are sports?
Ooh. Well, they are aired on ESPN.
Yeah.
Every 4th of July.
Good point.
So, I mean, you have to define what makes something a sport. It is
a sport-like activity at the very least.
At the very least.
I mean, there's famous hot dog eaters.
Yeah.
So, but
true. Yeah.
I would consider a sport because I think that it's a specific talent that not everybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one way you need to start defining, what a sport is. So I can't eat 70 hot dogs in an hour.
Yeah, in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes.
In an hour.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
there's a physical feat and there's rules. There you go.
Physical feat with rules. So
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's a gray area, but Kobayashi, Joey Chestnut, those are staples of 4th of July celebrations at least.
Yeah. This is a fifth of my dissertation, Jack. Hey, next question I want to ask you. What's randonauting?
Another great question. I'm going to be presenting this research at FSU Folklore Society of Utah here in 10 days or something like that. Randonauting is super interesting. It's a phenomena that I think it really hit its moment about 2 years ago. And basically what it is that these people, they got access to some kind of really advanced computer at this Australian university, and you send your location to a bot, and the bot sends you a location that you're supposed to travel to. And you're supposed to give like an intent on your trip. So you're like, owl is my intention. That's a frequent randonauting kind of motif, I guess.
Okay.
And you're supposed to look for talking walls, which are graffiti or signs that speak to you in a significant way. Void points, which are voids, like something that's empty, basically, or an anomaly, which is just generally anything that sticks out to you. So I wrote a paper about randonauting, and I did my own randonauting investigations to see what would happen. And I didn't really get the intention thing at that point, because I thought I was supposed to like type it in, but I got a really good talking wall for my first one. I was sent into just a neighborhood in Logan, and there's a little side street that led me to basically a truck for company, and I can't remember what it's called at this moment. I have the article on my computer, but it spoke to me. It was something significant, and there was like a really unique geometric design on it. And then a couple of other times that I went randonauting, I went past like a sign that had the name of the road that I grew up on there, Sunridge Drive, which was weird. And then probably the craziest one is I got a void point, and the point that it took me to was literally a trampoline that didn't have the like jumpy part on it.
Okay.
And so it was literally just a void, like an empty circle. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then the last one was like got led to just like a rat box, like a rat killing box, to a rat trap,
Rat
but
trap,
like a
yeah.
box.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm in this rat race right now. I don't know
my
what's
god.
going on. And I was like, I'm gonna do one more, and it took me to sign in the middle of nowhere. It was a dead end sign, and I was like, all right, well, I've done my research.
Oh my god.
That is so cool.
Goat Candle
one
says
more,
a cat
actually.
yelled at you. A cat yelled at you, says Goat Candle.
Whoever, Charlie was there with me, and a black, when we went to geometric design, whatever, there was a black cat sitting in the middle of the road just howling at us.
Wow.
And the last one, the craziest one, I was in Denver, and I was like, I'm gonna randonaut to just explore the city. That's actually the philosophy of randonauting comes from De Boer's theory of the derive. He was a French Marxist theorist in the 80s. He was like, you just go out to the city and you walk around, you explore it, because everything that you see as if it's speaking to you. You can't see anything that's not created in your own image, is what he says. And I was having some employment issues at the time. It took me to the unemployment office.
Oh my god.
Okay, we have to talk, because I just got a new therapist who does like Jungian art therapy with me, and I did not think that like me just randomly drawing while I'm talking was going to be as much of an expose of my subconscious mind as it was my first session.
Jungian art is insane.
Oh my god. I was like, this is wild. And so I totally get the like intention, like if you go in with intention, your things bubble up for you, and it is like, I don't know what to say about the world speaking back to you, but it sounds like it is listening at least.
A couple of things on that. You should check out Jung's book Psychology and Alchemy, and he has a bunch of the Jungian drawings that he had his patients do that were infused with chemical symbology.
Oh my god!
It was their way of like individuating, and
Yeah.
Then have you ever looked at any of Jung's drawings from the Red Book?
No, I haven't, but I have read a fair bit about.
Amazing.
Really? Okay, I've got to that. Maybe I've seen them passively. I wonder if I've seen them passively or not.
There's one with like this kind of like serpentine figure. There's one with like this great fish in the ocean. Just they're really unique works of art. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Apparently you were, while randonauting, the rando worm was trolling. There's a lot of worm wordplay happening in the chat. It's very good. Anyway.
I have like 1.5 more questions for you.
Okay.
From special guest interview question writer that we pulled in for this, Shelley,
Okay.
asks, "What's the one sentence version of your novel? What's the one sentence description of your book series?"
Okay, well, I've written 3 books.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you my third one that is unreleased. I've literally been sitting
let's
on
go.
it for 2 years. One sentence, the one sentence for it would be basically a shape-shifting shadow creature is haunting the streets of Lawrence, Kansas, and a journalist who might also be a physicist in another reality is trying to figure out why.
Oh, cool.
Hell yeah.
It's
And-
really hard to do that. It's really hard to get a one-sentence description of your novel.
Why
I
Lawrence,
know.
Kansas?
We knew it would be hard.
I went to the University of Kansas
Oh,
for
okay.
school, and so it's kind of a weird town where something like that could happen.
Sure.
Um,
one of
No,
the
but-
great college towns.
Yeah.
This one isn't really a question. There's no question mark at the end of it, but I guess it does tie into that because it is about a ship-shifting shadow creature. It just says cat. Is your cat nearby?
My cat is probably downstairs with Carly right now.
Fair.
Void Cat is usually sometimes she's right beside me, but
Coke candles as I'm coming up the stairs.
come on
my
up
gosh.
with Missy. We got to give her a cameo.
Little Missy.
I hope you're ready, chat.
Chat, are you ready for Void? Everybody gets very excited about
And pets. Everyone gets excited about pets. Oh, people are clamoring for cat in chat already.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Carly. Oh my god, look at
look at those
Look at-
eyes.
can't even see Missy.
He has the most beautiful eyes.
Oh my god, they look like craft store
She-
googly eyes.
When she was little, that was all you saw was just these giant eyes.
Crab
small
star
face.
googly eyes.
My heart is melting.
Aw, thank you
So
for cat
adorable.
reveal. Cat reveal. Hi, Carly.
Base
Peace out,
cat
what up?
reveal, everyone.
Wow.
Thank you, Carly. Chat is popping off.
Is that cat a based and pog-pilled turbo chat?
Basically, I think so. Oh, look at that. Bits for the cat.
Bits for cat. Also, everything I just said isn't real, so if you didn't understand, that's okay.
It's real to me, damn it. So, what do we, Daisy? We want to go into tier list, or do we a chat question, or what do you want to do?
I think we could jump into tier list, unless we want. Okay. Should we try to contextualize Tommy's question before tier list?
That's what I'm asking. You want to do this before tier list or after?
Let's do before.
Okay, go for it. Try to
Let's do
contextualize this, Daisy.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me bring it up on the Insta really quick. So I told Tommy that you were like the person that Tommy would want to watch on stream because of the ways that you think about the world. So Tommy says, if you all don't plan on talking about the parallels of the stoned ape theory and spice raising intelligence in Dune, will you please? So Dom might need to provide some
I might have
context
to explain
that.
how spice works in Dune. Do you know how spice works in Dune?
I vaguely do it, but I can cover the stoned ape theory.
Okay.
That's what we thought. Yeah. We'll give
Basically,
you the reference.
basically, after the jihad against AI in the Dune universe, they didn't have like the computers that can calculate fold space routes in order to go like long distances in spaceships anymore. What they do have is spice, a spice melange only found on the planet Arrakis, which has
It's like a sand plant.
yeah, has
basically.
it's a sand plankton, that's correct, which has like what's the word I'm looking for?
Psychedelic.
Psychotropic properties, which allows you to expand your consciousness and also see in like see things that are very far away, see things that won't happen exactly correctly in your future, but might be happening like in a parallel reality. And namely, as for space travel, it allows the navigators of the Spacing Guild to do so much spice that they become like melty, deformed blob men who can see infinite in all directions and can manually probabilistic futures. Someone in chat hit me with the phrase from the book. Probabilistic futures, but you can do so much spice you become a melty blob man who can drive a spaceship through fold space manually. So, how does this relate to the Stoned Ape?
Okay, so Stoned Ape theory is a theory that was formulated by Terence McKenna, who is a person that's very near and dear to my heart. I like the way that guy thinks.
Mushrooms, let's go. Mushrooms.
He's a great
let's
interview
go.
guest. He's a great interview guest. Yeah.
And I have an episode about Terence McKenna on the podcast,
yeah.
so you can listen to more detail about it. But in his book Food of the Gods, McKenna postulates that when our ancient ancestors were roaming the fields of Africa, we would trial and error figure out, what was good for us to eat, what was not good for us to eat. And eventually, he thinks that we would have come across a psychedelic mushroom. And which particular strain that was is up for debate. There's a lot of archaeological and pictorial evidence to support that was at least something that was going on in the past. But basically what he says is that our hominid ancestors discovering the mushrooms would have led to a revolution in thought and creativity, and would have allowed us to come up with very important survival mechanisms like creating stone axes and things of that nature. So that's basically what Stoned Ape theory is that mushrooms played an important role in our ancient development of having, coming into like a higher aspect of thought, essentially.
So you're telling me our early hominid ancestors could drive guild highliners through fold space? Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Yes, that's probably an experience they would have had.
Oh, I'd love to just see like an Australopithecus in Dune, just taking spice.
Oh my god!
Amazing. Thank you, Tommy, for setting up that great question, that collab question that we did.
I wasn't expecting Stoned Ape theory, but glad that it came up.
We thought you would be the perfect guest for Stoned Ape theory. So.
And we just did that Dune video, so it felt right.
It felt good.
All right, so if you click watch stream in the Discord, you can see our next activity we're going to do. But this is the point of the show where I asked Jack, have you ever made a tier list?
I personally have actually never made one.
But you're familiar with them?
It's something that I'm always making in my mind. Yes, I'm familiar.
Great. We love tier lists on Folkwise, both because they come from fighting games, and we love contextualizing stuff with video games on the show, but also as folklorists, they're just a great way to rank everyday life. And, us folklorists love the everyday. That being said, it's time for your tier list, Jack, and we've already seen Void Cat, so we thought this is the next logical step.
She's going crazy right now. I don't know if you can hear that on.
I can't. The noise gate is really working, and I can't hear the cat in the background.
I don't know where she is.
She might be jealous about this next tier list we're doing with you, which is cryptids you would want as a pet. So
most likely to least likely pet. Confirmed.
Yes.
Okay. And am I choosing between the ones that are listed below?
The ones that are listed below. I'll read them. I'll read them off for you.
Yeah, the pics are pretty small.
Yeah, the pics are pretty small.
Make some of them out. I see the Jersey Devil and the Loch Ness Monster.
Well, let's get there. Let's start off. If we're talking cryptids, we got to start off with the absolute boy, and that is Bigfoot. S being I would most want him as a pet. D being I would never want him as a pet. Where are you ranking Bigfoot as a pet?
No, That one's kind of tough, because I feel like it depends on which Bigfoot you get, and the personality of it. So I would put that probably in the second to highest tier.
A tier, solid A tier right here.
Yeah, my rationale being you could have some, telepathic communication with.
Yeah,
with it,
that comes up sometimes.
People don't talk enough about the telepathic communication aspect of Bigfoot. Thank you for bringing that up.
Definitely a lesser talked about aspect of Bigfoot. So
next up, he's basically a doggy, and that is Chupacabra. Where's Chupacabra going?
Chupacabra is, and that would be kind of lower down for me, just because there'd be a trail of goat blood everywhere. And there'd be a lot of cleaning up to do. I would probably put Chupacabra in the second to last tier.
Cool, right in C. And as you noted earlier, friend of the show, Jersey Devil.
Jersey Devil is one that I would actually probably put higher up. I feel like you could actually use the Jersey Devil as a transportation, sort of like you would use a Pokemon.
Okay. Yeah, riding Atropius in Pokemon. Yeah.
I would put Jersey Devil in the highest tier.
In S tier, Jersey Devil. Let's go. Mama leads his sweet boy.
Am I getting too dream brain if I feel like Jersey Devil is similar to the guy who like walks around on the beach with an iguana on his shoulder?
No, I like that.
Is that the vibe?
I think Jersey Devil is like the family in Russia that rides their bear around.
Yeah.
That's how I was kind of thinking about it. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, awesome.
Next up is the Fresno Nightcrawler.
Fresno Nightcrawler, I would probably put Fresno Nightcrawler in the same category as Chupacabra.
Okay, is it below Chupacabra or above Chupacabra?
Below, probably.
There we go. This is what happens when you don't have arms.
Exactly.
For these next 5, we tried to go with cryptids from your side of the country. So ones you would know about. So you might need to contextualize.
So
these
it's not the
little
Loch Ness monster. It's a different lake monster.
Yeah, that's right. You called it.
You'll know immediately what it is.
So you might need to contextualize these a little bit. But first up, we have the Slide Rock Bolter.
Okay. That is from out in my area. I believe is Colorado native, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I always think about the Slide Rock Bolter as being sort of like that worm from the SpongeBob episode. I don't know if...
Which is a reference to Dune. Which is a reference to Dune, by the way. Yeah.
And so that's a lot of destruction. But if you were allowed to get onto the same page with it, you could maybe get your own like subterranean network of tunnels. And so I would put that in tier number 2 with Bigfoot.
Above Bigfoot or below Bigfoot?
Above Bigfoot.
Also, spoilers for the movie Dune. You just described the plot of Dune. If you could get on the same page as a worm,
God, worm.
You'd stop the carnage.
God, worm.
I apologize to everybody for not having seen it.
You'd love it. You'd love it.
You would like it.
Yeah. Next up, it's not the Loch Ness monster. It's Tessie from Lake Tahoe.
Okay. And let me ask you a question. Is the last picture also a lake monster?
Yes, it is. We're saving that for you.
Well, actually, my uncle has a townhouse out on Lake Tahoe.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been there, but maybe I could set up some kind of arrangement if I was with Tessie. I would put Tessie in the 3rd tier.
Right in the middle in B?
Yes, because I feel like there's a lot of time in the ocean, time apart, which can be necessary, but could make a little bit of complications for it.
Sure. Next up, we've got a Tommyknocker.
Another Colorado native. I would put Tommyknocker in the 1st tier, and I would put the Tommyknocker up there because could help me find gold. There's a lot of gold, I'm sure, that is still in the hills of Colorado. And so that would be my purpose.
And is your little gold mine friend, is he above Jersey Devil or below?
I'll put it below.
Okay.
I really would like to fly everywhere.
Oh, he's so sick.
That's good. That would be sick. Hey, speaking of flying, this next one is, in my mind, the most iconic Colorado cryptid, and that is a Denver airport lizard man.
Ooh. Somebody had to go in the bottom category. So it's going to be the Denver lizard man. Because, these reptilian entities, you know how they are. They always have some kind of plot that they're not telling you about. They're up to something. So
yeah,
trying to take over the government.
Building a spooky airport to telegraph their takeover of the government. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Can you say a little bit about the Denver airport?
Absolutely. The Denver airport. There's so much to say about it. One of the things that people point to is that there's a cornerstone inscribed with a Masonic emblem on it. That from the very beginning, the Masons were in on it, and the actual layout of it is a swastika. If you see it from above, there's these crazy murals that depict Nazi officer slaying indigenous people, basically, and the murals are insane. I've gone out and
chat says Satan horse. Don't forget Satan horse.
Satan horse, as well as our horse with the glaring red eyes that enters you in there. But it's just the Broncos. That's just Denver Broncos, I think. And then there's all sorts of things of funding. They don't know what happened to the funding and stuff like that. But so they think that the Denver International Airport is like a New World Order headquarters, essentially.
Oh my God.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's unnecessarily spooky to the point where people are there has to be a reason.
Isn't it shaped like swastika or something?
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah. From above,
it makes
the shape of a swastika. And I think it's the runways are actually what make it like that.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting.
And last up, I think you figured out who this is by now. It's the Bear Lake Monster.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. No, I don't know how I couldn't not put Bear Lake Monster in the same tier as Tessie, so it's going to go in the third tier. It's going to go above. Bear Lake Monster is, Bear Lake is 30, 40 minutes away from Logan, where Daisy and I lived, and I've scoped that out myself a little bit. Tried to think about the plausibility for it, and
it knows us better.
Right. So I might have, a local rapport with it.
Hell yeah. Well,
hell yeah.
Yeah, here's the official tier list, and it goes from a nice friend who you can ride around, all the way down to having a pet of an alien entity who's trying to overthrow the government. Not good pet energy, but Jack, thank you so much. This is the official tier list for cryptids as pets. Jack, I feel like you've got a ton to plug at the end of the interview now. What's something you want to make sure people follow or listen to?
Follow Mythic Existence on Instagram and Twitter. Follow Mythic Existence on YouTube, and it's a podcast, so you can watch it or listen to it wherever. That stupid podcast thing where they're like, listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts.
Wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever pods are cast.
But Spotify and Apple Podcasts on there, stuff like that. Should be pretty straightforward to find Mythic Existence. You can follow me personally on Instagram if you would like, at Archaic Futurism, which is also the name of my blog that I have not really been active on for, recently. And then I'm at the Folklore on Twitter. I know I need to get the same thing for my ats on all of the words, but I don't, so deal with it. You know how to find people, so.
Yeah. I dropped some links. I'm sure that they can sniff out the trail based on those. Dang, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jack. GG's to Jack, everyone. If you've got emotes, drop those ladders for Jack. This was a fun interview, and I'm glad you liked. I'm glad you had fun hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had a ton of fun. Love the questions. Thanks to everybody in the chat with digging into the other things that I'm interested in. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Honestly, it was just a lot of worms chatting. There was a lot of worms in the chat.
Loved worms.
On many levels. Making quilts helped me to get a sense of my own space, sense of finding my way, sense of really working my way out of the labyrinth.